All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of West Coast Street Knowledge. I'm your host, Gail, aka the American Cholo. I got my co-host Sonny in the house.
What's up, you guys?
And today I have two very special guests. This is something we've been trying to get worked out, and we finally got it. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Ben Owens, also known as Taco. I'm with the Southern California Ceasefire Committee.
My name is Kevin Owens, also known as Twin, and I'm also with the California Ceasefire Committee.
So let's start off with you, Taco. If you want to give us a little history of your upbringing, your life, just a short bio, and what you do now.
Okay. I grew up in a small city called Gardena, which is south of South LA. Grew up in the same home with my brothers and sisters. I'm the middle child. But I'm the only one that decided to join a gang. I joined a gang and went through the classic rituals of going to jail and violence and everything that came along with it. Eventually went to county jail. I've been to juvenile halls, all of them. State prison, and then federal prison. During the course of my journey, I also had gotten married, fathered 4 children, and just kind of made my way throughout the ranks of my neighborhood. And got to the point in my life after I did everything on the to-do list, decided that I wanted to do something different. Still love my neighborhood, whatever I could do to make my neighborhood better, my community better. I just kind of stuck around. I got out of federal prison about 20 years ago and got a old bar in my neighborhood, kind of cleared it out and made it a mentoring agency. So it's a nonprofit organization in Gardena. Aside from that, I do street gang intervention, deal with different neighborhoods, how we can resolve conflict and crisis, and support victims, people who are victimized by gangs or gang violence, police brutality, whatever the issues might be in the neighborhood. Predominantly in Gardena or South LA.
And how old are you?
Right now I'm 54.
There you go, baby. Twin.
I came from a 2-family home, parent home, 4 brothers, 1 sister. Did the church thing, father worked hard, mother worked hard, but I found my way through the gang life when it just came out around, I got interested probably around 70 from my older brother. Went to the traditional schools in my community, ended up going to a juvenile camp at a young age, did observation in Norwalk, and I eventually hit the prisons. Also, he passed the test, like Taco said, he passed the test, but I've been shot before 8 times, so that's in the culture of our community that we grew up in, so I'm kind of educated in that as well, and found my way into want to give back to my community. A young man that went to prison, when he was 16, he did 20-some years, come home, decided he wanted to get some guys together and, and come together and bring a change to our community so that the youngsters wouldn't have to grow up like we did. So we got together with 7 other men and some women. And that was in 2007, I believe. We just wanted to start making our schools safe for the kids to go to school, and as well as changing their direction that, the gang didn't have to always be your only choice, to be accepted. So we got together and started an organization called Advocates of Peace and Urban Unity, where we would give back. And we just we started off wanting to help the gang members, but doing the work, we also said we want to help everybody because everyone's affected by it. If you're not in the gang, you're affected by it one way or another. So we just wanted to provide service for the whole community.
So, are you guys the first generation of guys actually doing that in your neighborhood, or when you guys were growing up, was there guys trying to do the same thing you guys were doing?
I would say maybe the first generation that actually had lived experience. So, it's always been somebody in the neighborhood who represented some type of mentorship or an uncle or father figure or whatever, but not specifically that had lived a life, had gone through all the gang rituals. So we might be somewhere in the neighborhood of that. In terms of being ambassadors for gangs, but I think every community has always had somebody in the neighborhood that wanted to see young men and women do better, but not so much those who have been there, done that.
Well, I also think it was the wrong era. You guys couldn't really do this in the 80s and in the 90s.
Oh, no,
right?
No,
it would be a different world.
Right.
So we pretty much got here together after, I want to take your guys' your take on a lot of the racial stuff that's going on in Los Angeles. I'm sure you've seen it on both sides. And first I want to ask you, what are your thoughts when you started seeing those videos coming up about, now it's the famous elote lady, the raspado man, all these guys that were getting abused by young African Americans. What was your take when you first saw those videos?
It angered me because I know if me, I was looking at it another way, that somebody was harassing some black lady, I would be angered, but one of it was educational for one, for our community as well, for me and for some youngsters. So one of the young guys in it, that name, he didn't participate in, but his name became the focal part of it. He reached out to me and like, man, how can I get to them where I can clear my name? And so he stepped up, and we made some stuff happen to where he was able to interact with the two men that was in the video, and they did what they had to do, and I think, I don't know, it might have been you that was kind of upset saying that, what are we doing? We stepping up. But as you know, we can't just put everything on social media, so certain things that occur with our people in y'all communities, y'all deal with it the way y'all can. We had to do it as well. So as a whole, the media don't see what we do, but we have to do it in a whole nother entire way to, to make it unacceptable for them to do things, act like that. So not only was they was wrong for doing that, but to another race, they shouldn't be doing that to nobody, period. So it was an educational part that happened, that took place, to where they looked at it like, damn, but you trying to get likes, but that was some dumb shit that could have got some shit started. And so it was just educational for them youngsters as well, for the whole community.
So Twin, to what you were saying, when I made that video, I'm sure what you're speaking of, I made my 2-minute rant. It was something that we as Latinos, raza, whatever you want to call us, I don't get into what people are, but it was like we saw first the elote lady. I made a video about that, and I pretty much called out my own people on that one. I said, dude, for how many years have we been terrorizing our own? For how many years have we been robbing our own? We extort those people. We do all kind of stuff to them. So I actually used that as a opportunity to call my own people out and say, this is wrong, man. But at the same time, look what we do to each other. Don't sit here and say those young men off the back are like every African American, because they're not, period. And then you saw, I think it was a guy with the egg. It wasn't that big a deal. That's almost like a stupid prank that a white kid can make, and they'll call it jackass or something, right? But then you've got I think it was the last one, the raspado guy. And that to me was just, I think I was feeling it more from people calling me. I had homies of mine, and there's not even that many African Americans, especially gangs out here. But I got younger homies of mine pissed off. I mean, actually trying to do something. Like, dude, relax. I got guys hitting me up in my DM. Have you seen it? It just kind of built up inside of me. And what I did, I wasn't looking for a fight. I'm still not looking for a fight. This is what I was looking for. I was looking for a conversation. And personally, I didn't know that there was that many of you guys out there doing what you were doing. So if anything good came out of that, it's this, that we're having that conversation, brother.
Me, myself, I looked at it like, what if that was my mother? It was that was my aunt. Somebody I cared about that got choked out as far as the elote lady. So it wasn't necessarily just a racial. It was more, what if that was my mother? That lady had a kid. That lady had somebody that cared about her. And to see her family get treated like that was my issue about the thing. It was because I understand that we've done to our own just as bad, if not worse. But at the same time, I wanted everybody else to see, what if that was your mother? What if that was your auntie? What if that was somebody that close to you? Then it would be a whole different ballgame, because people are saying it's petty.
Yeah.
No, it's not petty. If it's your mother or your aunt, your cousin, somebody you love, your sister, it's not petty. It's something that you want to kill over. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to avoid.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that stood out to me, and my neighborhood, we share neighborhoods, black and brown. We coexist, have been for years. And it's obvious a lot of people can't identify what I am. A lot of times people walk up to me, start speaking Spanish, and sometimes I'm cool. Yeah, ¿cómo está? Muy bien. And then they just give me full throttle, and I say, hey, cámate. No más. I don't have no more. That's it. So I've always had, a level of engagement to where I seen people as people. And when I did see some of the videos, I was upset because I seen people being bullied. Vulnerable people, who wasn't bothering anybody, And to me, it wouldn't have mattered if it was brown on brown, black on brown, or whatever, however way it turned out. It was just disturbing just to see that, and to see it, and someone to think that it's funny. And like you said, whether that was your dad or your mom or somebody in your family, it's not funny. So it disturbed me to that point. I think what we did get out of it when we seen that if it included actual gang members, it makes it easier for us because we can hone in on it. You know, now we can track the dude down or whatever. But had it been somebody we didn't know, or just some random dude just in the neighborhood doing something, it would have made it more difficult, you know, to try to resolve, or at least have some understanding when folks is calling and say, hey, that's your people. Well, it's not really our people because we don't really push the line for that to happen. But if it's our people, we're going to track them down, and there'll be some accountability for their actions.
And there was also, just to bring it up also, there was also a video going around. I think it was 3 essays. They were going in a car, throwing water at black people, calling them the N-word. And that's just disrespectful, distasteful. It's the same thing. And from our point of view, we feel the exact same way, brother. I think we're trying to grow as people all together, you know. It's just, we just kind of wanted to make sure it's not a trend, because that's what these kids are doing. They think it's funny, they think it's a view, and I mean, they're kind of snitching on each other, but at the same time, they don't understand how many people they're bringing into this fight,
Right.
if there were to be a fight.
Right.
Which, like I said, we're not looking for a fight, we're looking for a conversation, brother.
And because we live in the digital world, when you do see things like that and they're recorded, I guess I'm a troll if I read all the comments, you know. And when you read them, you're reading some stuff that's like, it's really scary that if anyone has the potential to carry out what they're talking about doing, or if they have a level of influence to somebody that might read that and then say, oh yeah, let's get it cracking, or let's do this. But I don't think we always take into account the person behind that keyboard might not be the person you think it is. It might not even be in this country, you know, or might work for somebody that worked for somebody. So a lot of that, it could be agitating because you're reading some stuff there, but you don't really know the person responsible for writing that, or what their motive is behind doing that.
Well, a lot of these kids don't understand when they talk about a racial war or attacking each other as far as racial. There's going to be repercussions from later on down the road, and I think from our age group, because we're all basically in the same age group, that we understand that now. When we were having those wars back in the days, we're feeling it now. We have to deal with it, and we're trying to stop our youngsters from doing the same thing and making those same mistakes.
Well, one thing that was huge that I saw was the guys from Hoover, man, just doing that and putting that out there. And some guy said, "Oh, you don't need to put that out there." No, but it was a big show of respect. It was a big show of communication. It was a big show of actually trying to do something about it.
A gesture.
Yeah,
A gesture of.
It was a huge gesture, man.
But but it came from him, the youngster. You know, he seen. I mean, we seen it. We was upset, but when he called me and told me how do I clear my name and straighten this out? I'm like, this is one way you can go about doing it, and that's the route he took. You know what I mean? He didn't even wait for me to get down there. When I turned the corner, he was full engaged in doing what he was doing.
So what was he thinking? Was he just thinking it was funny?
Well, the guys that did it, yes, they did, but they put somebody else's name.
Yes.
His name was involved, and he had nothing to do with it. But now that incident created a conversation to where now they like, damn, that was some dumb shit I did. You know what I mean? So it was educational for them as well. So I don't think they'd be going down that road. So now he better tell someone else, the silly stuff you're doing can get other people involved and get them hurt. To where it ain't gonna come back to you, it's gonna come back to the other people that's really out there. So, you know, hate it had to happen, but the conversation is here now. We're here at the table, and it's like, where do we go from here? Because the moment we stop communicating with each other, you know, that, like they said, is idols. That's an area where the devil can come in and start placing and doing the stuff he creates. You know, so us coming here in good faith and having a conversation, I think is a good start. You know, for the conversations to begin. You know, because we don't want to run from it because it's there, and you know, when we trying to act like we don't know what's going on, and like you was talking about the 70s and 80s. You know, they create this atmosphere the way they are now. It's just way in our communities to where the black gangs is not communicating and let you know that they are friends with some of them guys that they're so-called enemies with, because we wouldn't conversate with them. Like, no, I be over there with them fellas. You know what I mean? They just keep it to themselves and just allowing kids to make grown men decisions that's gonna get somebody hurt. You know, because when we started off gangbang, we was young. We wasn't grown. We was young, making some decisions that was gonna cost us our life. You know, permanently or behind them walls. And with that, us talking about it, like, come back and talk to some of our youth and be like, man, that was some dumb shit I was doing, you know, so I'm here to tell you, if you want another option out, here's your way out, you know, but I also want to hear what's going on with you. Well, where that pain coming from, where that hatred coming from with you. And I know it ain't somebody from another part of the street or community, what's going on with you? You know, we're bringing that anger out of you. How do we deal with that so you won't be walking around with that hatred, you know, and that trauma that's inside of you? So how do we deal with this individual to get him off that notion of just hating somebody he never known?
How's the gang problem in your guys' area right now? As far as, is it more black on black on brown, or a little mixture of both?
No, always it's more black on black.
More black on black, even more Crip on Crip and blood on blood. And traditionally, it's always been that way. So when we started working together about 15 years ago, working with Ceasefire, the homicide rate in the county, I think we ended in 2005 with 1,146 people being killed. Those are homicides, people killing each other. The majority of them were Latino on Latino, and then about a third of them were black on black, and then the other ones like other races. So, and now probably last year we closed out about 560 people killed. So we come a long way. We attribute that to the networking and talking to folks and folks going out and putting out fires. But for some reason, it's always been more races are more likely to harm their own race than any other race.
Yeah, we do a great job at killing each other.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And when you do see it black and brown, to be honest, more times it's either personal or it's gang versus gang. It's not like a random thing that somebody just went out and randomly just shot somebody because of their race. It was a bad drug deal of a car, a girl, or it was just straight up just gang issue. You just happen to be a different race.
I think in the African American community, they sometimes, especially people who've never been in gangs, kind of see, let's say, somebody like Sonny, or they're racist off the back, just because they don't understand the dynamics between a brown and a black gang beefing each other. Yeah, when they're saying disrespectful stuff, because they're trying to get under their skin, you know, just like you would diss some other neighborhood. So they're not calling you the N-word just because they hate every black person. They're trying to get under your skin, just like they'll be dissing them, calling them something with the, you know, dissing the suit or whatever it is. And the same thing is just to get under their skin. So, you know, for people who may be watching this, it's not a racial thing. It's a gang thing, and that's hopefully what we start slowing down, because it took about 50 years to get where we're at in this gang stuff. And none of us do it. Your mentors were guys telling you, go rob, go kill, go steal. Right?
Yes.
Those are the mentors. That's why when I hear guys telling me, I grew up in the 90s, they tell me, homie, you lost your schooling, you lost your clecha. I said, what school? All you told me was go to jail, kill guys, do dope. What kind of school is that? You know, I'm going to be in prison for the rest of my life. So I'm glad that you guys are here talking, and I would love to sit here and just shoot ideas off of you guys to see how we can make better race relations with you guys, man.
Yeah, and like I said, for me, speaking for myself, it's kind of difficult, and maybe because I have tunnel vision, and I see my people as my people in my community, whether they, you know, they're a vendor, or whether they, you know, work at a particular store that I shop at, or what. It's just my community, it's my people. I don't necessarily see it as being a race-related issue. I think sometimes it's connected when it's gang versus gang, and then it's a race involved. I grew up going to juvenile hall, and I would run into, because it's like a melting pot. You see gangs from all over the place you never even met, heard of. But I would see like black dudes that's in a Chicano gang or whatever, and they get treated like they was Lhasa. So I'm like, so I took that into account. And then vice versa. Now, sometimes it wasn't always that way. If it was a Latino and a black gang, that he would get that same respect or get that pass. But I always just viewed it as this is my community. But if there is anything that we could see collectively, it's kind of like what you said. I mean, it's people. But when you bring in the gang dynamics, I see the gangs as being the vanguard of the community. So when something happens, whether it's good or bad, you got the gang there to kind of check it to make sure that it don't go either way, and just keep it gang, and innocent people shouldn't get hurt, things like that. But I think it starts with the gang. The gang is going to determine if this is going to be race related, if it's going to be just a straight up isolated issue or whatever, because they're the one who's going to be on the front line. They probably be the one to either put it out or get knocked down trying to put it out.
Twin, you grew up in an era where you guys beefed it pretty hard with a Hispanic gang. Yes. Did you ever find yourself on that side of the fence where you hated Mexicans, let's say?
No, never. Even though I got shot 8 times by them, I never did, because my kids was like, their best friends were Latinos, so I know my son came in there and see me after I came home with these bullet wounds in me. I can look at his face and tell him he was like ready to go hurt somebody. I'm like, nah, you can't blame a whole race of people for what one person did to me. So I think that kind of eased his mind and settled it, where they still friends to this day. And this was like about 15, 20 years ago that this occurred to me. And they shot me like 8 times, but I had to really be, if I want to survive that, I can just imagine the next person coming in front of my son would have preached that hate to him. But I'm glad I survived. What I was telling him, no, they didn't have nothing to do with it. Only one person did. I don't know if he was from that particular gang, but he was Latino. But I could have spreaded hatred after that act. If I probably been much younger, I probably would have been speaking in a manner like that. But I'm glad I was much older, mature to have that conversation with my son to allow him to grow as a man and not to hate somebody because somebody did something to me. They want to blame a whole race of people for something.
But I want to say that your younger homies that were about my age ended up growing out of that hate, because I was busting in wine with those guys, and they would look at each other and they would hate each other. Big time.
Well, they grew up with each other. That was like a fraction, in the community in hundreds where that they grew up with them. And so when that thing exploded, it exploded. Yes. When you grow up with people, just like with the black guys, almost vicious wars with people we grew up from elementary with. So, so when it exploded, they knew everybody stayed there, so it happened. But in reality, when you look back, I got to tell them, you can write disrespectful stuff on the wall, but I'm like, in reality, we haven't had a war with them in over 25 years. That is something happened in the past, and they still holding on to that stuff. And it's like, when you look back, man, I ain't had nothing with them in years, but the young generation that'll grow up, they're still trying to hold on to some time. We in war was like, no, you're not. That was that era back then that had that little war with them.
But even then, it wasn't like what you said is you guys grew up together, and you guys end up being on opposite sides of the fence. Yeah. But that goes for raza and raza. There's people I went to school with that ended up being from a rival neighborhood, and I went after them because they were from the rival neighborhood. Even we're the same raza, we're the same. So that's something that is not just agendered to the gangs. Right. It's not, it's just part of the gang. Right.
Yeah, I think we got to kind of show the youth, like you guys are a little bit older than me. I'm 45, and just keeps kind of speaking down, let them know, because most of these guys are fighting for something that 2 homies were fighting for some chick back in the 80s. Right. And they're killing each other for that. Right. And they haven't realized that, one day they're going to wake up older men and either in prison or, in a wheelchair or something and say, what did I do with my life, huh?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, we get a lot of calls about crisis and whether it's an issue or whatever, and a lot of times, if it's not our area or our community, we'll call somebody, had to call somebody. When was that? Yesterday. So yesterday was a homicide over on the east side, what we call the east side. Girl goes to the store, she get into it with a dude, Latino. She got her baby with her. She, had words. She goes home, tells her brother. Brother comes up there. He has words with the dudes, all Latino. He chases the son, the brother, back to the house. Pops come outside like, hey, what's going on? He pulls a gun out and kills Pops. So this is the type of thing. And then so there's nothing we could do. Our hands are tied, how some issues arise or whatever. But, folks are agitated. They're bothered. And you don't know where to put your finger on it. Is that racial? Is it gang? Is how it's documented? Because one of the things that, and I was reading the comments again. I'll go back to, I guess I was trolling when one of those incidents happens. Somebody said, "How do you even know he's raza?" And because we don't know. So and a lot of times in LA we just say Mexican or whatever. But when I was in federal prison, I had said something one day, and this dude, he was from Colombia. And he thought I was being disrespectful because I said something about Mexicans. Don't you ever call me that? You know, but where I come from, we just thinking that, you know, yeah. But he felt like I had disrespected him. And then it was other races. It was El Salvadorans, and then I had to learn to just, you know, either use Latino, Hispanic, whatever it is. But I tripped off that because I thought for a moment, if the person that put that comment, how do you know if he's raza or not? Would it matter? Would it matter if he was, you know, from another country or if he was Chicano or whatever? It still was wrong. But it made me think that this person that wrote that considered if this person wasn't Chicano or wasn't Mexican or wasn't raza, then he didn't deserve the justice that was due to him.
Yeah, it still wasn't going to bring that man back.
Right.
Nothing you do, the raise is not going to bring him back.
I think it just makes
And
it easier for some people. They say, "Oh, well, he was raza." That's, you know, they want to, like when they watch the news and let's say a rape happens, somebody's in there. I hope he's not one of mine. You know.
A lot of people, I know a lot of people that look at us suspect, hey, you guys can stop this. I mean, because we've seen it in the comments. Hey, why don't you stop this? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Why aren't you in the streets? We don't have that power. You know, we can talk and voice our opinion and try to change people's mind thinking, but we don't have the power to go on the street and say, hey, you got to stop that, because I'm going to land with a bullet.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm sure it's the same way with you guys.
Same
right?
with us. Yeah.
We got to have that respect for them and talk to them and see if we can change their mindset before it's too late.
Right. Yeah. Or we might actually go, you know, have a conversation with somebody or deal with it in our way, and it might not be televised. And we dealt with it. You just have to take my word for it. It's dealt with.
Yeah.
You know. Or it's like it's something we don't know who the dude is. We don't know what it was about. It wasn't, because sometimes when we speak in terms of our people, we're talking about people from our neighborhood or our gang, you know, and those are the people. Yeah, and that's how we kind of deal with it. It's just, you know, if they're from our community, more than likely we can get down to it, you know, sort it out. But we can't just go out just because the person was black and just go, you know, deal with it. We got to kind of yield that to the next person, you know, or the next community that person might belong to.
I think also when it comes to when stuff happens racially, I think the Latino community has a little hostility towards African Americans, not in general, but the political machine of the African Americans. Because anytime something happens, like if let's say the Elote lady was an African American and a white guy did that, it's on CNN, man. It's on CNN, it's on all the national news. You guys have such a it's a great political machine because it's straight up, it's a great political machine. As soon as something happens, you guys all band together and you guys are with it. Whereas we will look at it and say, they're stupid, or they're this. But then something happens like this and everybody starts crying about it. Well, not crying, but everybody starts complaining and saying this and that. But at the same time, to those people, I say, you're killing your own every day, brother. Don't sit here and blame just because this African American kid did this stupid shit. All of a sudden, you're doing that every day in your streets. You're selling dope to your people. You're killing your people. You're backstabbing your people. But at the same time, we expect you guys to act like angels and us to act. No, it doesn't work like that. And I can tell you it doesn't.
You know, I have a trouble understanding this generation. Because you got the guy Nipsey Hussle.
Yes.
And they're in a community with portraits of him in Hispanic communities. And I don't understand. They're talking this racial war, a lot of them the youngsters, but then they're fully engulfed in that rap game, in that culture. And it kind of confuses me as for being older, because I'm like, wait a minute. You're pushing this agenda, but you're involved in this culture. You're living that culture. You talk like them, you act like them. And I find it a little confusing, because I'm like, hey, wait, I can't, figure out what you guys are thinking. And I don't know if it's because I'm older or it's just I'm just out of touch.
These generations seem like be out of touch with the next generation. It's just like when we was young out there, they older generation looking at us, what's wrong with you? What the hell are you thinking about? And so it's just us. It just goes around, and that's why I make it my business to talk to them, because I want to listen to them. What it is I can do for you? How can I help you? Because most of the time they say we don't give them the space to listen to them. We just always tell them what they're gonna do or what they should be doing. In reality, it's like, let me listen to see what it is that I really can do for this person. And just having an ear for that seems more of me getting closer and understanding what some of them, the youngsters are going through and what it is they really want. They want their voice to be heard. People take them serious instead of just like, go to the back, shut up. You know what I mean? You do as we say and do as I tell you instead of letting them be a part of the process.
So that sounds to me like you guys are on the other side of the coin of what we do. We could try to give what we call klecha to our younger homeboys and we understand that a lot of those kids are looking for a way out, some way to express themselves and to get away with it, but don't know how to do it, don't know how to pull away from all this.
Yes.
And you guys are dealing with the same thing, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See, that's something new to me. I was always like, okay, well, they want to do this. Okay, that's the way they are. Yeah. But that's new to me. That's an open experience. I've never really thought about it.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier about like if had it been a different situation, and if it was black, there would probably be advocates at the forefront saying justice this, justice that, and rightfully so. If a person is victimized and they need the advocacy, or the advocacy should be there. But I think when we think in terms of gangs, that's where the advocacy comes in. It's kind of like our responsibility to get in there, because those same advocacy groups, they can't advocate for gangs, because there's more, gang-related homicides than there are innocent people getting killed. And you don't see people laying down on the freeway and doing all that other stuff when somebody from the hoods get killed, and it's the same race on the same race, and people they not champion that person that's been victimized. So I think it's our duty to kind of, manage our own, and I'm talking about in the gang world. Some of us are afforded to go along a little bit further, and then when there are those other opportunities to advocate for people who can't advocate for themselves, we'll be there too. But for the most part, when we see things that are race related, it's not that we fall back, but we know that there's some folks up there that'll deal with that at that level. At that point, it's not even gang related anymore, because y'all gonna let the judicial system or law deal with it or whatever like that, and let them deal with it. If you want us to deal with it, we'll deal with it, and it might not be televised.
Yeah, when I was saying that about the rap guys and all that, I was saying more because like that, the Latino community is like this with the hip hop culture. I mean, they are. So to me, it was like, you guys support all these guys, you guys buy all the records, but where are they when you need them? Make a little voice, like, straight up, somebody like Snoop Dogg, somebody like YG, somebody like, just to say a little message, hey guys, this is wrong, this is something, kind of just to fan down, and those guys have the ear of the raza, and they have the ear of the brothers.
Right, but we had that same issues in our own community about the rappers. The same question you asked them where they at when the black and brown, yeah. They saying the same thing. Where you at now when young people doing it? So we had the same struggles with them as well. Like, how come you can't come and support now when there ain't nothing going on? Where are you at now? The same communities you talk about you from, what you doing for them now to make sure they don't go down that route? And the best time to come is when there's calm. You should come then. Don't come speaking up into a rally when the people are dying. Come when there ain't nobody dying, and start building a relationship and the bridges so they can find their way out there, so they won't have to go through the heartaches and pain.
Well, I think we're gonna have to start acknowledging that the gangs are part of our communities, and most people won't acknowledge it. They will no, the gangs are no good. They're no good. Okay, I'm not saying that they're good, but they are a part of our life, and they have been for many years. Yes. And people just want to I don't know nothing about it. I don't want nothing to do with it. But it's a part of our lives because it affects everybody.
Yes.
And we need to figure out how to reach these kids where they can have somewhere to go in. And what you guys are doing, I hope that we can do that someday.
I think the thing is we got to kind of flip it. Like, we're all proud of what area we came from. We all say we're this, we're that. Right. Same thing with me. But I think we got to flip it where you can still be proud for your neighborhood, man. Right. You can still have pride in that hood. That is your hood. But you know what? Instead of writing on the wall, paint the wall. Instead of, screwing this thing up, get a job. Get some business going in your community. Make it your community. Because at the end of the day, it's not our community. No. We're just renting it, man.
Right.
And the more we're killing one another, these kids haven't seen it. they're gentrifying everything, man.
Yes.
They're coming for everybody, brother.
Yes.
They're coming. I think the Jordan Downs got those new apartments on there, and I worked on those. All right, I did some foundation work on those. I talked to the superintendent, one of the main guys there. This is the plan out there. The plan is, they're bringing somebody, whoever was living there, they're going to bring them back. But there's a clause in there. As soon as they screw up, they're out of there.
Yes.
And they're betting, and unfortunately, I would bet on it too, that the brothers are going to screw it up. They're going to come in there, they're going to get kicked out, and then you're going to have Asians, white, people with money. It's not even going to be about color. It's going to be people with money, and then 10 years on the line, you're going to have people there saying, oh, look, they're kicking us out. No, you're kicking yourself out, sucker.
Right.
And that's the big fight in LA, and these guys don't see it. I think we need to put that energy towards that fight, man, to stay in your community and do it right. But, hopefully as we're getting older and we're teaching these guys after we came out of that nice ride of gangbanging.
Right, yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's hard work. It's a lot of heavy lifting, and I would say probably because the level of entrenchment. We're talking 50 years. So I was young and I joined the gang, 11, 12 years old. So it's so embedded in me, to think that how it should have been and what I could have been and how my life could have been changed, that my children, my grandchildren, I didn't bring them up around it. But I can imagine the people that stayed in the hood or didn't have someone to kind of school them or navigate them. They only being taught what they know, whether it's from their parents or from the hood rules or how everything's going in the hood. If it's taught, don't like this race, they've been taught that. I mean, it's not like they don't want to dislike. Because you go to any playground, you see kids playing together. They don't care what color you are. They don't care if you got snot on your nose. They're going to play with you. They just generally are innocent to love. But I think that when people begin to, when they're taught to hate, and that becomes embedded in it, it takes a while to kind of get that out of them, or for that light bulb to come on and say, hey, maybe we could live together if we practice something different other than what we have. Because it makes sense to me what you're saying, but what about the person that's 21 and then it has this peer group that's saying, no, homie, we ain't doing that. We doing this, because what you're saying now, it's too healthy. And like you said, you can't be a nice gang member. That's that defeats the purpose. You passing out food, homie, we putting in work.
A lot of people, I don't know how this generation has learned to hate. I know probably from your era and my era, we learned it from our parents. At least I know I did. My mom and dad, it wasn't like, they're disrespecting their age. It was just every once in a while you would see it seep out. And my father had did a gang at a prison time, so it was like, he learned it. He grew up in East LA, so there was no blacks in East LA. Right. So he learned that somewhere, you know what I mean? Right. And he brought it out to us without even realizing it. So as I was growing up, I had a chip on my shoulder about it, But these youngsters, unless somebody's older that's actually pressing that agenda, they learned it on their own somewhere.
You get to see it like that, but unless, like you saying, hearing from their uncles and their fathers, if indirectly you can be having these conversations when they're around and they hearing it. Yes. You have to be sitting down telling them, you be outside talking about your experience that you experienced with another race, and they're going to take that and run with it. And then they find somebody else talking about it, well, we got something in common now. Now we can hate them together. But my biggest thing is like us as men is for forgiveness. That's one word I know is people we just don't use, even come from the joint and growing up in the hood. Forgiveness is a word that's taboo, and it makes it seem like you're a weak man for saying I forgive you when it's not. That's empowering you and giving you the power to say I forgive you for that. You know what I mean? And I think we got to come to spaces where we allowed to say that. Because I had a young dude he did like 27 years in prison, young dude when he was about 15, and I asked him, I'm like, you feel bad about the time you did? And he looked at me like, no. He said it basically saved his life. And then, after that, he said, man, all I was actually waiting for somebody to tell me I had to do this for the rest of my life. It was a gangbang. When somebody told him, well, you ain't got to do this for the rest of your life, you walk away from it and do something different. He said, and that's when he stopped, because somebody finally told him that. Because if you don't have these conversations, nobody going to know how you think, or is acceptable for you to be somebody else that you pretending to be. Because a lot of them are pretending to be something that they're not anyway, and they find themselves getting stuck and caught up in there like, damn, I get up in here. I don't want this life for myself. No, I wanted it for you. I chose because I didn't like you because I didn't like myself, so I wanted you to be bad, end up in prison, so I could talk about how stupid you was for listening to me and not listening to yourself.
Well, most people don't understand. There's only a very small percentage of people that really don't want no change.
Right.
Yes, and that's in every culture.
Yes, yes.
It's a very small percentage that are really about that.
Right.
They just don't want to change.
Yes. Yeah.
But unfortunately, those are the ones that are very influential in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing. But I mean, we all know here on this table, that's the hardest thing is being able to say I don't bang, being able to get a job, being able to actually work and do something in your life. I mean, being a gangbanger, that's the easiest thing in the world, man. You act a fool, you don't care, but the price that you pay for it, that's the problem.
And there's always a price to pay.
You know what though? For a lot of teens and even me joining the gang, it gave me a sense of social status. It allowed me to be somebody. Everybody wants to be a part of something. You got a Ram shirt on. I mean, somebody else. You're a fan of something. I mean, so everybody wants to be a part of something. You don't want to just not be a nobody. And so gangs have been an option for a lot of our communities. You know, everybody can't rap, everybody can't play sports, everybody can't do all these other different things or have these aspirations, but it's easy to be a gang member. And they'll take you blind, crippled, or crazy. You can be in a gang, you know. There's really no criteria, just loyalty. Just be loyal to the hood. And that loyalty, however crazy it might sound, whether it's, you know, spending the rest of your life in jail or sacrificing your life for something that doesn't make sense, you want to feel a part of something. And so I think we have to be able to make or find a way to let our young people know that they are a part of something, a part of that community, and they can take that community pride. But again, we're at an era that everybody wants to be a part of something. These last issues were social media issues to get popularity and things like that, but it backfired. So, you know, if there is a way to reach out to our youth, to let them know that there's somebody, whether they have, 10,000 friends following them or, 1,000, whatever it might be, that's not who makes them,
I think what it is pretty much piggybacking on your point now. They want acknowledgement. That's all we wanted. And whether we get acknowledgement for getting a job, graduating, or getting acknowledgement for busting on your enemy and going to YA or going to the joint, you want that acknowledgement. But I think what a lot of these young guys need to see, let's go back in history. Every war that we've had World War, I think we beefed it with Japan. I think we dropped a bomb on Japan. They're one of our biggest allies in America, man. In every war, because the problem, I even get this all the time, oh, but they killed my homie. Oh, but they killed her. I said, dude, go to history. You got thousands and millions of people that died. Now everybody's getting along. When it comes down to it, the generals sit down and say, okay, guys, the war's over. And that's kind of what we got to sit down and tell these youngsters, listen, man, this war is over, because that's not the war. The new war is the war to get your block back. It's that war to get your streets back. This is the new war, and I think that's what they need. It's just a matter of how we implement it.
A war's never been solved or won without talks. There's always got to be some talks. And that's what I think we needed to do, was have this conversation so that we can lead to it, that we are trying to do something about it. We're not just sitting there talking about it. We're trying to do something.
Right. We're not giving the green light for our youth to just wild out in the communities. That's not it. And that's just on both sides. That we just not we're not cool with them just running around just disrespecting people. So that's really not the case with any of us. But it's what you do. You have older guys that be in the community that will egg them on. Like they cool with it. And it's like that dude. For me to stop and speak to a youth, it's showing that I love him, that I'm honoring him. Because I see you. And some of them go their days with nobody saying nothing to them. The first thing they say, get your ass up, get out this house, go do something. Nobody ever stopped to acknowledge them hey, how you doing today? How you feeling? Or even tell them they love them. Yes, right. So it's always a negative from the moment they get woken up by their mother, father, house to they hitting the streets. Where you from? Hit them up, get at school, do your work, get out of here. There's nothing is attainable for them to honor them, to acknowledge them in a good way.
Yeah, they need that respect.
Yes.
And I know with my own younger homeboys, I'm always respectful to them, and sometimes I have to have the words with them about something, but it's always respectful.
Yes.
Because I know what they're going through. I've been there, I've seen it, And I know what they want. They want that respect, that acknowledgement.
Can you guys touch on your guys' community as far as drugs go? Because out here where we're at, North Hollywood, man, methamphetamine is rampant, and we got guys in tents everywhere. Nowadays, you got young gangbangers pretty much living in tents, man. How's your guys' situation out there?
It's the same, like we were speaking the other day about the crack era, how it's still prevalent today. Like it never went nowhere. It just form. It's a different form, but it was the crack baby that was born back in the 80s and 90s. That's now mothers and fathers and grandparents and stuff. So the cycle continues, and it was really nothing, no services really in our community that dealt with it because it was new. Just like when the gangs came up, they didn't know how to deal with it because it was new. And I think the crack epidemic that came around, there was nothing in place to really deal with it 20, 30, 40 years down the line. And so we have the resurgence of heroin that's prevalent in our community with our youth now. That was something that was like we didn't indulge in, but now you're seeing a high number of them using it now. So it's like, what do we do? I mean, because it's here.
Yeah, it is challenging with the meth. It does connect the dots with a lot of other drugs, heroin, PCP, a lot of different other drugs are kind of focused around it, but it is like the primary drug. We didn't really have substance abuse counseling on that, how to treat a meth addict or, somebody who's been deprived of sleep for 5 days and things like that. What are they thinking? We have to find a way, though, to really kind of embrace them, whether, they're on drugs or whatever it is, but to get them that help that they need. The thing about methamphetamine, it impacts all races. I mean, I don't think anyone is excluded from that. But I think the symptoms or the reactions from it, you're right. I've never seen so many homeless young people before in my life. When I was young, running away from home was like a privilege. You had to do it. Now people are either getting kicked out or they just, decided, and they're getting older. So you deal with, I got my driver's license when I was 17, and I actually lied and told them I'm 18. But now, I mean, dudes in their 20s and their 30s, no driver's license, dudes walking around, it's like, homie, you don't want no car, you don't want no house, they like, no, I'm cool.
That's amazing.
Taco, it sounds to me that we have much more in common than we don't. I mean, it's that what you mentioned, that sounds like my son, that sounds like some of my nephews, I got nephews that they don't know how to ride a bike. They're 18 years old. So what do you mean you don't know how to ride a bike?
Right.
Nobody's taught them how to ride a bike. Me, I have my driver's license at 16. These guys are 19, 20, no driver's license. So I think it's the same thing on both sides of the court, brother.
Yeah, but they can use a video game, huh? Yeah. They're crazy.
Right.
Are you guys doing any kind of like job training at your guys' facilities?
Well, we do offer like job development, show them how to write a resume, get their social security card, their driver's license. We help them out to pass the driver's license test. We do everything to help them get a driver's license, except for take the picture for them. We'll pay for it. But again, it's that motivation, getting the guys, to be motivated enough. And we talked about the meth, but nobody's really saying much about the weed and how the dispensaries was kind of set up in our different communities. And again, you had dudes that's just like no motivation. Everything's just like kickback. And, I think we got to get folks more motivated to kind of want more out of life. Not only have I never seen so many people homeless, I've never seen so many young dudes anxious and proud of being on welfare. Yes. Getting food stamp cards. I had like, man, when I used to go to the store and I had the food stamps, it's embarrassing. You didn't want nobody to know. But now, man, I'm dealing with young dudes on their 18th birthday. They waiting like tomorrow I can sign up for EBT. And they're going to take me off my mama's EBT. I get my own EBT card as a birthday gift. And they say it with pride,
But I think that goes back to politics, man. It goes back to politics. I won't really get too much into it, but it's pretty much when you have a system that wants to give you a crutch, wants to give you welfare, wants to give you this. Like these guys in the streets, 20 years ago, the cops kick you out. The cops say, you ain't put no tent over here, man. And nowadays, they don't do it because it goes, again, back to politics. It's like, no, we're going to hug him. What you're doing, it's like you're having a lazy-ass kid in your home. You're giving him food. You're giving him shelter. You're giving him this. He's not going to want to work. There's no motivation. And I think that's one thing that we, as Latinos and African Americans, can join forces together and start have these guys change some of these policies where these kids can't be on the streets. and you make like 10 cities in there. Hey, you go here. You don't want to be here. Here you go, and then you get them the rehab in here. So eventually, get them off the streets.
I know this is a controversial topic. Dispensaries, you mentioned them. How do you feel about them? Do you think we were correct to legalize it?
I think if it had different restrictions, maybe it would be different. But if you see a kid 15, 14 years old get high and the potency of the weed, to me, from my understanding, because my drug of choice when I was young was PCP. And so some of this weed is so potent that it puts them in a state of mind to where they're high like for hours at a time. So I don't think, to be honest, and I'm black, but I'm also Native American, that anytime the government gives you something, that you would want, which our people did vote and say, yeah, give it to us, it's probably not going to be a benefit to you in the long run.
I kind of feel like that it's, I kind of wish it would have left it illegal, but not been so harsh on the punishment when you did get caught with it. I think it would have been better, because I personally don't use it. I don't. I was a big PCP back in the days. It's just weed I've never.
No, they should have left it medical is what it was, because it was more of a hoops to get it 21 and over. But nowadays, yeah, and the thing is, they're smoking wax, they're smoking alcohol. It's not regular weed.
Well, it drawed a lot of negative attention. We've been to a lot of homicide shootings around the corner from Dispensary. Dudes getting robbed, or they catch a dude slipping. They know everybody's gonna go buy weed. It's kind of like going to the liquor store. But for our communities, it was just like a one-stop shop. Rather, it's, you go to the liquor store, get your drink, go get your weed, and then if you're on a certain street, you might find a lady friend. So all of the things, it didn't help things get better. It just kind of
because now it's a liquor store, dispensary, liquor store, dispensary, right all through all the blocks.
Yeah. But like he was speaking earlier about the politics of it, who giving them the license to come over here? And even though we got a lot of illegal dispensaries over here, but we do have some legal ones. Who writing off the licenses? Just like with the alcohol they have in our communities. Who writing on their licenses to have all these liquor stores?
The people that brown and black people keep voting in. That's exactly who it is. Because that's what California is. They can't blame it on just Republicans. California is ran by Democrats. And and Democrats are giving these guys the licenses to do that. They're giving these guys the permits to build these houses that people can't afford. They say there's a housing shortage, but they're building apartments that cost $1,500 for one bedroom. Right. It's not an apartment. It's not a shortage. It's affordable housing shortage. So it's these guys, and that's, I think, what we need to get a little more involved with. We can actually help them out.
And I guarantee you, the owners of the legal dispensaries in our community don't live in the community. So the money that they making, they taking out of here. And I post to them like, no, if you're gonna have it, let the money stay here. You're not able to take it out of here, so let that money stay here and circulate in this community where you can have these resources and these services with the people that's addicted. So you'll be giving training to them as well, but the money don't need to leave out the community. If you got a business over here and the people in the community that spend their money, that money should stay here and never be allowed to leave.
Yeah, the way I can kind of give people an example, because some guy asked me that not too long ago, and he was saying, well, what do you mean by that? I said, listen, man, look at your community like a country. If you're in a country and everybody's buying that stuff in that country, being made in that country, guess what? That country's making money. If you go to a country where they're not exporting anything, not buying anything, that country's not making any money. So if that money stays in your community, you can get better social programs, you can help out, you can job train, you can do more of the stuff that you guys are doing. But at the end, they keep playing us for suckers. And we keep voting them in. And so we're going to keep getting the same thing. And it's been going on this for 40, 50 years.
Yeah. Well, drugs is a serious problem in our communities, especially when we're poor. I mean, you figure how can you afford drugs if you don't have any money? But it is what I would call the ideal weapons of mass destruction. You put drugs in any community, you don't have to worry about them killing each other off. The drugs will do that, whether they make the gang member docile or dudes to sell their guns or whatever. I mean, but the drugs will cause more harm than any other one individual will.
I was clowning with some guys. I got Instagram, like always posting weed, and I see nuggets everywhere, and I was like, "Hey, dog, I got a question for you guys. Where's everybody getting all this? Where's everybody getting all this money for this weed? And we're supposed to be in recession and depression over this COVID. I don't understand it. Everybody can stay high, but everybody's asking for $1,200. I just don't understand it.
It's the not even the bling bling generation anymore. It's the gram generation, man. As long as you look rich for the gram, as long as you can show you got stacks, you may be broke living at your mama's house or at your girl's house, but on the gram you look rich.
You got the blunt.
With the blood.
Yeah, like the ground generation. That's it.
But you know, even in modern internet, and again, I'll date myself. So my children, when they were coming up, they had this thing called MySpace on a computer, and you know, and then so I got 3 daughters and 1 son. And one day, one of my daughters, she kind of left it on, and I kind of looked, and she said, "Oh, Dad, that's MySpace. You looking at MySpace?" I said, "Yeah, it's my computer though. It's my computer." So I was actually monitoring to see what was she doing, because it's a whole nother world for young people in those social media groups. And sometimes when parents don't know, and then when we get to the homicide scene, they say, "Oh, my son, he didn't do this." And then we look at the page and say, "Well, on here he was, on here she was." And so some of those things that they're troubling, because we have to have a better accountability platform for parents. I mean, not to say that anybody's a bad parent, but you should know what your son is doing on social media, or if he's in the garage building a bomb or whatever he's got going on. If that's your child and you're responsible for that child, you should know what he's doing.
Twin, I got a question for you. What do you think, or not even think?
Stop
but
picking on Twin.
What do you know? How big the impact of a male role model going to prison or just being taken out of the home?
It got to be the right man. We had this conversation the other day. You know, they cry about a man not being in a home, how it affects the youth. But sometimes I done seen the wrong man in the house. It could be just as deadly as a man not being in the home. So it comes down to the individual. You know what he stand for and what he gonna leave for his kids. What he gonna teach them? Are you gonna teach them hate, or are you gonna teach them love? So it always gonna come back to the individual, because like all men in the house don't mean that the kid's gonna turn out well. I mean, I had one of the ideal fathers, but I still chose to be a gang member. But he left me enough to, like, the older I got, that I had something, a foundation to fall back on. And that was the Spirit of God, you know what I mean? Because the way I was raised, you know, I was able to come back to something that was going to be able to hold me up and keep my family together, and me as strong as well. So I think having the right father in the home.
Yeah, I think the father or the mother taking that responsibility, again, of watching your child, or making sure that they don't have to go through those same pitfalls that you've gone through. You know, the old saying is, experience is the best teacher, and it is. It just doesn't have to be your experience. So I can tell my son about prison, about being shot, and about being in a gang and all that, for him to avoid having that experience. But I think that when we look at this South LA, and you have 70% of the homes there, black and brown, with one parent, and whether the father or the mother, whoever's being there, it's ideal. It's like it's almost created a certain way, an institution, to have 2 parents, a mother and father there. But when that's not there and it's dysfunctional, and we can't really scratch our head and wonder why is things going one way or another.
Well, father doesn't necessarily have to be blood either. People don't
Definitely.
You know,
Yes.
people don't understand that there's people
Yes.
that come in and embrace somebody's kid like if it was their own. And you know, that's always good to have somebody with a positive influence come in, because I can actually say my brother-in-law was that for my son when I was locked up. He was there to mentor my son, and I don't agree with the way he raised him, but at the same time, he took the time and effort to try to treat him right, try to make him understand that he was loved, you know, and thankfully my kid doesn't get in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, and my hat's off to single parents, whether it's a mother or a father. I mean, it's challenging. I mean, it's even more challenging for, you know, the child. You know, they're up against so much, whether, you know, things at school, identity crisis, whether they're going to be a gang member or not, or male or female, whatever it might be, that they're up against a lot of challenges, especially with the gang nexus, because when we were growing up, you know, the most deadliest question in the world was, where you from? So we know now that there's an even more deadlier question is, where do you live? Because if you tell me where you live, I'll tell you where you're from. And you know what? You're going to get the same issue as if you were from there. So a lot of innocent people are impacted by that. A lot of people are kind of forced into arenas that they don't want to be a part of. because of, you know, where they grew up at, and they didn't have no say-so in the matter. They didn't even ask to be born, let alone live in this neighborhood that they don't want to be associated with.
Well, I think we forget to say when we're talking about gang members, we're not just talking about men. Because there's some women are out there that are really with it.
Oh, yeah.
And they need just as much as help as a man.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then when we do talk about gangs, I think it's for both.
Taco, how hard was it for you to wake up one day and say, I don't bang?
To be honest, I never really said that word or told anybody that, because I still am from my neighborhood in a different capacity. I'm a resource to my neighborhood. I used to be the little light-skinned kid that if you hung around him, the mom say, hey, don't hang around that little light-skinned boy. Get away from him. You're going to get shot or go to jail. And sure enough, I done been to jail with lots of homies because I was kind of leading the charge. But it just came to me as I did everything on the to-do list. I knew to be a gang member, I had to go to jail for one day or at least one lifetime. I had to hurt people. I had to anticipate on being hurt, either shot, wounded, maimed, or even killed. And it's just a lot. I just did everything that was on the list, and then I just said, I've done it all. And it kind of came the day that I got shot. Dude walked up to me, asked me where I was from, and I told him, and he just pulled out the thing. And I just kind of knew he was going to shoot me. And I could have just said, oh, I don't gangbang, homie. And I just come too far. It's just, you got me. So either you're going to do me. So he shot me once and kind of jerked me back. And then he shot me again. I was about this close with a .357 Magnum. Knocked me off my feet. The next thing I know, I kind of woke up and then the police was jacking me and I said, hey, man, I'm the one that got shot.
You know what something I just realized right now? You were part of the upper echelon of your neighborhood, correct?
Somewhat.
You had some kind of power in your neighborhood. You had a little standing.
Yeah.
You, the same thing. Me, same thing. Him, the same thing. We all had some kind of... We were considered one of the hardcores, and I'm not trying to boast or make it seem like I'm better than I am, because it ain't. I'm just some old man. But we all had some kind of power in our neighborhood where maybe that leads to something. You know what I mean?
Well, no, what it leads to is our words hold much more weight than anybody else. You're gonna have some guy who was never really about that in your neighborhood talking about, hey, don't do this and that, when he was never around. Come back 20 years later, it doesn't work. So that's what we're using. We're using our voice, pretty much our reputations, what we've been through in the neighborhood to say this. Because when somebody makes a phone call, if I make a phone call to some homie from Gardena, say, hey man, what's up with this guy Taco? He's gonna tell me, oh, he's OG.
Asada.
I call somebody over there. I call somebody from his side of town. Hey, what's up with Twin? That was a G. Same thing with you. That's what it is. And that way, it opens the doors to have these kind of conversations.
Yeah, I just thought about it right now. I'm thinking, hey, wait a minute. We're all in
He's a little bit smarter than he looks.
Right. And so
It takes me a while to think.
Right. So when people call and reach out to us that they have an issue with somebody else, I know that's a door for me to go in there and and straighten it out. Because if it didn't, you would never call me and pick up the phone. You would handle it yourself, like we would do back in the day. What am I calling for? And I got an issue with somebody, well, I'm gonna go take care of it.
Yeah.
But when they take the time to call and reach out to me, you let me
Sign of respect.
Yes, right, and you let me know. I straighten this out because I don't want to go no further. So that's when we intervene and try to smooth it out.
Yeah, that's good. That's a lot of respect right there.
I think, again, like I said, not a matter of me being out, but a matter of me being in and being there for a good reason. I think people, especially young people, they can distinguish if you love them or if you care about them, you're a resource for them. So I think me still being in my neighborhood, because I could have moved out somewhere and just said, there's a lot of dudes that do that, just never come back. They really don't even want to deal with the people or whatever for obvious reasons, and that's okay. But my thing was, I love my community. I love my people, and I want to be there to help them, help them find a job, but I won't give them a gun to go kill somebody else. So I guess, I'm not out, but I'm in for the right reason. And they know that. They know don't come to Taco for no gun.
But you got to be in the trenches and to make a difference.
Yeah.
We have to be in those trenches.
Yeah.
I'm still embedded in my neighborhood. I'm probably always am. I'm still going to represent my neighborhood to the fullest.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm going to go out there and kill anybody for it anymore.
Right.
And my priorities for my neighborhood has changed.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be in the trenches in order to make a difference to these youngsters.
Yeah, yeah.
They ain't gonna listen to some guy that just walks in and it's, hey, do this.
Yeah, we all love our hoods. So that's one thing here at this table right now we have in common. We all love our hoods, but we're just putting the energy towards a positive way. Man.
Yeah, right.
And that's what it's about. But some people, I live down the street. I walk by my neighborhood every, I don't know, a couple of days. I'll take a jog, take my headphones, I'm walking through my hood, right? But I got friends of mine or homies of mine that I haven't seen in probably 10 or 15 years. They only live like 4 or 5 miles away. But they just stay away because I think they feel like they're going to get there and it's going to suck them back in. And that's why, and I understand that. But to me, to those guys is, don't forget where you came from.
Right,
man.
right.
Don't forget, you all those guys that left, you guys were part of the problem. You guys got all these other guys in here.
Yeah.
So it's almost like those rap stars or somebody who made it out the hood. Only because you made it 5 miles out the hood, don't mean you can't come back and help
just
us out.
rap stars, but celebrities too. Where they, you know what I mean? They, to me, I had it's like they climbed up our back to get to where they're at.
Yeah, yeah.
And they don't want to reach back and help nobody else. It's like when they get up there and see you guys, suckers. You know what I mean? And I see that a lot with celebrities. I'm not just saying rappers. I'm not really into rap, but I see it as celebrities. I see it. It's kind of like, wow, you know, you're just gonna leave everybody hanging. Because that's the people that we need to speak up. These rappers, celebrities, and say, hey, you know what? You guys need to, because they have a bigger voice than we do. They have a lot of influence to a lot of people.
Right.
So I think it would be better if they spoke up.
Oh, I think Twin says it best when he says we have a level of responsibility because of some of the folks, whether they heard old war stories of who we were and what we did, and they try to emulate that or be that it's our responsibility to go back and show them who we are now. And that might not be as sexy as, you know, being somebody that's dangerous or whatever, but because, again, they might be more attracted to the dangerous or the negative. But it's still our responsibility to go back and try to have a level of influence on
make amends.
to make amends.
That's what we do. We need to make amends for the stuff that we've done.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna kind of start closing this thing out. I want to first thank Pastor Ray, wherever he's at hiding. Thank you for letting us use your spot. The two guys from Sinaloa over there with the mask on that you can't see.
Oh, those are cartels?
Those are cartel guys. Paul, thank you very much. That guy. And I want to really thank both of you guys, first of all, for taking the time to come out here to this side of town to drop some straight knowledge and just stuff that we really didn't know. And hopefully we helped you guys out the same way. And I would love to invite myself to one of your guys' events or your workshops or whatever you guys do to kind of maybe make a video and show people what you guys are really doing. Because before this happened, I didn't really know. Straight up, dude. And I apologize if I came out in a rough way, but I wasn't trying to do it at all. I was trying to just get this conversation going. So I want to thank you. I want to leave the last word. Go ahead, each one of you.
No, well, thank you for inviting us. Thank you for this platform and the thousands of people that's going to hear it, going to see it. I think we need more of that. I think also that it's, again, I get all these different weird analogies, but it's my baby pigeon analogy. So LA got all these pigeons and they ruin your car and you got to get it washed again. But you know, I never seen a baby pigeon. I'm 54 years old. I never seen a baby pigeon. You know? But you know, I know they exist.
Right.
I know they exist. So there are these peacemakers out here that exist. You might not see them all the time, but they're there. They're there. So there's more of us. There's hundreds of us that are out there, black and brown, and we do the work, and we love our people. And when I say our people, I mean our people that do this work, our people that want to live, our people that want to live in peace. Those are our people. So thank you again for the platform. I'll leave my cell number. If there's anything that I can do, you know, in Gardena, on South LA, whatever I could do to connect the dots. Now, we're not magicians. So, yeah, so sometimes if somebody call, hey, Taco, you know, the dude robbed the bank and my mom's money was in the bank. I need it. No. So we can't fix everything, man. But, you know, you give us a call, man, we're going to do the best we can.
Man, I appreciate that.
And like you said, once again, thank you for allowing us to come share this, even with you. But also, when y'all start leaving your comments on today, don't beat me, my brother. We not come to represent all the black. We just come to bring conversation and bring something to the table. Because, you know, people get looking at this and think we speaking for everyone. No, we just trying to bring some dialogue and bring it to the table to put it out in the front. You know, because, you know, our community is large and people contend to, like, you're not speaking for us. No, we speaking for the people that want something different, that want some peace.
right.
They're the ones we speaking to. So it's just bringing awareness that we do have brothers that's out here that want a difference, you know, that don't want our community to look different, that they don't want the violence to be just present like it's been in the past. But like I said, I'm grateful for being here, and thank you for allowing us to come share.